just chilling there. Looks like somebody's looking for somebody. If you're looking for someone, I think they're over there. It seems highly, really, very fucking convenient, but I got coaxed into recording myself.
Because there's far too much of this backroom dealing going on here. Now, after the ECPAC stopped the demolition of the theater, they said we're not going to do that. Now, the reason this happened was because the RDAs, the redevelopment agencies, were shut down by Jerry Brown. The governor said no more of these scamming RDAs. They shut it down. I believe that the city was trying to blight this theater by keeping it closed so that they could get state money coming in to fix it up, the blighted area. That was their game plan. The money was revoked, and then they were dead in the water. They didn't want to admit that they could just open the thing with a vacuum cleaner, cleaning it up a little bit, because that's about all it would take. Now, we heard from Williford, this is going to be our last chance to fix this up and run it well. And so we want to do it right. And so we're going to go get professionals to work on this. We're going to have a professional architect work on it. We're going to get a professional manager. And we're going to bring in X. We said, well, we've done a survey of the community. Do you want to see what we found out the community wants to see? No, I don't want to see that, he said, because we're going to have a professional come in here to take care of it. And so we don't need to have your survey of the community to find out what they'd like to see. So he's never embraced our survey. Late last year, Doug Williford, the city manager, met with the Rock Church. First thing that happened was he sent an email on September 20th to the real estate agent of the Rock Church saying, what's going on with ECPAC and the Rock Church? You'll hear the city say that they came to him with an unsolicited proposal. That is a lie. He solicited the proposal on September 20th. He went out to the Rock Church and said, what's going on, and come over to ECPAC and we want your proposal early. He got a proposal in January. Then they tried to meet in closed session and in the city, at the city council meeting here. Closed session to handle this public rental of the theater by the Rock Church. And that's when Citizens Oversight objected. We put in our formal objection and said, you can't meet in closed session. You can't just go ahead and work a deal with this church here without it going through a public process. So then they had to back up, and they said, well, we're going to let everybody come in and make their bid. Well, it turns out the Rock Church never did really rebid. They actually met with the Rock Church before the bidding was closed, and they had them remove some of their items from their bid process. We found that out in the CPRA request that I just got today. Now here's the story of what they're proposing. The Rock Church wants to basically use this building for their church. They want to turn this building into their permanent location for their church. Right now, they're over in the old Michael's building on Jackman, over near where the old Home Depot used to be. That is a dead area of town. It needs something like the Rock Church in there to bring people into it. It's struggling. There's nothing wrong with the Rock Church being over in that part. It's better. It's closer to the trolley system. It's closer to the freeways, everything. If you put the Rock Church in this building, it's going to devastate El Cajon from a logistics standpoint. You go and talk to people. I challenge any of the reporters that are here. Go talk to people in Point Loma. Ask a random person that lives close to the Rock Church down there and see if they like it. They, virtually without exception, they hate it. The Rock Church ties up the entire area and makes it impossible to live down there. The Rock Church doesn't care about the quality of life around their operation. They're a for-profit business, and they're there to make money. End of story. They do not care about traffic patterns. They don't care that it's going to screw up El Cajon. So in this latest proposal, they're saying they want to use it every Sunday of the year from 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. They want to use it one Friday and one Saturday of every month. The Saturday from 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. The Friday, a long period of time. And then on Tuesday, they want to do rehearsals here. Now that Tuesday is usually a very prime time night for theater goers. And they're not going to bring a soul in here to go to that rehearsal. That's a rehearsal for their insiders. So that's not going to bring anybody in. Maybe that's good. We don't have to struggle with traffic on Tuesday night. But they're talking about how much business this is going to bring into the downtown. Williford uses numbers that he's pulled out of the sky that make no sense. So they're effectively going to be renting this for about the equivalent of $900 for a rental period, compared to the normal rental rate of around $2,500. They're getting rock bottom prices, and I don't mean that as a pun. The prices of this is absurd. Only $900 for a rental period, which is usually 8 hours. Why? Because they're using it for 18 hours on Sunday, which would be at least 2 rental periods. The organization I was associated with, Rosemont Community Concert Association, would rent this church, this theater for $2,500 for a night. And now their proposal with their funny math is $1,600. But if you do the math right, you're getting it for about $800. The Rock Church wants to tie this church up in almost like a jail cell grid pattern of days, so that nothing else can fit in here. It's like looking through the grid on it if you're in jail, looking through it. You can't put any other events in if you've got this grid in there. And what they want to do is rent this for a rock bottom price and use it for only the time that they need to, and then say, well, we don't want to pay for the rest of it. Meanwhile, getting out of about $250,000 in what any other church would have to pay for an equivalent sized building in town. Probably not this nice though. Now, let me give you an idea here of why we're against this. I already went over the fact that, number one, we believe that they should follow through with their original plan. The theater manager should be hired first, and then let the professional theater manager decide how to allocate the time. Some of that time will be given up to churches that want to use this theater. We have no problem with churches renting it on an equal basis with other renters. And then go forward with making this a top-notch theater with bringing in events and acts that will draw people in from around the county. Now, a long-term lease, as they proposed, is to one religious organization is unconstitutional and unlawful. What this city is proposing to do is against the law. They have sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and they're violating their own oath. Now, what you'll hear, though, is, well, school districts rent their rooms to churches all the time. In fact, the mayor, Bill Wells, said that exact quote. It turns out that the school districts don't have long-term leases with anybody for their rooms. The longest lease that they have for rooms is a year. And that is questionable in our mind, that you can lease it out for a whole year and not allow a different church to have that same time. There's also another big difference. The school districts have many, many rooms. They have a whole bunch of schools. We had a meeting with the Cajon Valley Union School District Superintendent. He gave me his rules. They're in the document. We got all of the legal citations that they use, including the Attorney General's opinions. Nowhere in the state of California do they have long-term leases of any school district buildings. Never is it done. Not done. It's against the law. You cannot do it. Now, you can do it for a one-nighter. You can do it for a series of Sundays, but not more than a year. Their plan here, it looks like a 35-year deal. They want to put a new building in on the other side of ECPAC, and the Rock Church will own it for 35 years until it's turned over to the city. No, 35 years is way too long for any kind of a deal on public property like this with one religious organization.
If you have any questions.
You have to be able to be non-preferential and non-discriminatory. That's the state constitutional requirement. That means that you can't lock this up with one church and say all other churches cannot use it on Sundays, Christmas, Easter, New Year's, Thanksgiving, whatever time that they want. And trust me, once they start using this theater, it's a slippery slope. This will become entirely the Rock Church with occasional rents to other people, like the Christian Community Theater, which is was poorly running it before. Now, all of this information about the unconstitutionality is laid out in this letter that we're giving to the city today. We are not opening a lawsuit at this time with the city because they have not actually made any final decision on whether to go with the Rock Church, and we don't know what the final proposal is. But if they go forward with anything like this current proposal, an immediate lawsuit will be opened with this original document right here as the start of our complaint. Now, I want to make sure I cover these other issues that are subsidiary to the constitutionality issue. One is that I mentioned these, but I just want to quickly go over. Number one, regular church use here is incompatible with other uses. Think about it. They're going to start using it at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. How can you have a late night event on Saturday night if you have to reconfigure this for a Sunday morning service? A lot of people who are in the entertainment business are not going to want to go into a church facility that has a big sign that says the Rock Church perhaps somewhere, and that is known as the Rock Church of El Cajon in this area. I mean, church and state, I'm looking at City Hall right here, council chambers, and the courthouse along a common courtyard. This is just not a building in town somewhere. This is a very special building with the same architectural components, the same brick construction as the council chambers and City Hall. It's oriented 30 degrees, rotated from true north, just like the other buildings here, because it's part of a set of governmental buildings. This is not a building a church can go into and run full-time like they're planning. Absolutely not. Now, the lower than market rate rentals. Number one, they're saying we want to get this for this $216,000 a month, a year, I'm sorry. Right now, they're paying approximately $25,000 a month at their current facility. All right, that's $34 per seat. If you multiplied it out, divided by the 725 seats that they have there. If you applied that to this facility, what they would have to pay for this would be about $465,000 a year. And that's if it's the same crappy facility like what they have now and not an excellent church with all of the goodies in it. So the city is relieving them of at least $250,000, and probably more like $500,000 a year. This is preferential treatment to one church and not all the other churches. Secondly, they're not figuring out the 8-hour day. When you rent a theater, you don't get to use it for 18 hours. You get to use it for 8 or 9 hours at a whack. That's it, because they want to get another group in there for that same day. Using it for 18 hours is more than a 2-day rental. They want to rent it for equivalent, Doug Williford says, of, they want to rent it for an equivalent, according to the city manager, of $1,600 a day. But that $1,600 a day counts sometimes for 2 or 3 days at a time. And so the effective rate is around $900. Other nonprofits normally pay $2,500 a night to use the theater. This is historic. To rent it for $900 is a ridiculous attempt to get preferential treatment from the city. And the Rock Church should be ashamed of itself. Ashamed of itself for coming in here and trying to abuse this city and abuse these weak city council and the weak city manager who's bending under their will. This annex on the other side, 20,000 square feet that they want to put in, that they want to own for 35 years, so they can put Rock Church offices in, Sunday school services, and so forth. Now, I'm not against the possibility of another building with restrooms, because the restrooms in the facility here are not quite enough. However, that's going to be completely owned by the church, except for the rooftop venue that sometimes they'll allow other people to use. The process of getting into this was defective. There was no public meetings, no workshops, or community engagement meetings since Doug Williford came in as city manager. For the last 2 years, nothing has happened with the community. But he's met in private, he's met in secret with all of the big boys so that he can make these backroom deals. And that's wrong. The city requested a proposal by the church. Doug Williford sent an email on September 20th, said, please, what is going on between ECPAC and the church? Then there were secret negotiations that were inappropriate and that we objected to. Then they put in a request out for interested tenants, but did not allow anybody to come in and offer how to run it as a manager, as a real theater manager. They said, we're not interested in that. We're only interested in things such as what you have with the Rock Church. The evaluation by Doug Williford was ridiculous. He said this was the best proposal he's ever seen in his entire life. I gotta read this because it's so crazy. He said, in the staff's view, the Rock Church proposal is so significant as to create an unprecedented positive impact for the entire community. He says he's never seen such a good proposal. I'm not reading the right one. Alright, I can't find it. Now, we couldn't even find a proposal from the Rock Church. They only sent us 2 pages with bullet points on it, and then their financials that say they make over $50 million a year. This is a $50 million a year business that's coming in to make more money on the backs of the public. And it's all within their own realm, and they get to do their books and so forth, and this is not the way to handle a public resource. Now, what we're planning here is we're going to be delivering this letter to the city. We're going to be asking them to review this with their negotiations with the Rock Church and find out exactly, so that they know what the law is, so that they know that this proposal by the Rock Church is a violation of the Constitution, so that they know if they go forward, they're going to be in court. And they know that not everybody is for this takeover of this theater. We're going to be delivering this today so that they know what's on the table. And if they do go forward with something, anything close to this, then we're going to be in court. I don't want to go to court. I'd rather have them settle it in advance reasonably, because court is not where we want to go. We want to make sure that they know what it is without going to court, but if they want to go there, then that's fine. Now, I'd like to invite a couple other speakers to come up now and make a few comments very briefly about what they think about it. I would like especially a minister here, Reverend, can never get your name right, More Kokolas. Come on up and give your comments, because this is a religious person who has an opinion about this. Give your name.
I'm Peter Markopoulos. I'm a retired pastor who served the church in El Cajon. I also live in downtown El Cajon in one of the priest developments. I have to agree with Ray that the traffic problem that I will face will be horrendous. The second point that I would make is, in one of the churches I served, we had a cell tower. You know what the rent we got paid for having the cell tower was on our property? It hardly took any space at all. $900 a week. $900 a week. Can you imagine that? The same thing that the Rock Church is going to pay. It's just incredible. And of course, there's the church-state issue. There's no reason why the Rock Church should presume on a public space to take over this public facility. I attended programs here, concerts, and also plays. I wish that would come back. I've lived downtown for 10 years. I go to the restaurants downtown. I also, in 2002, ran for Congress, so I'm intimately familiar with the politics. And I must say that the politics of the city of El Cajon themselves are terrible. The city is run by conservative Christians who have no trouble with allowing this kind of egregious behavior of this conservative church to come in and just take over the downtown. Thank you.
Okay, next, another citizen of El Cajon, Marge Carlson.
As a 40-year resident of the city of El Cajon, as a community activist, and as one of the founding community members of ECPAC, my husband and I were actively involved in helping fund this ECPAC Foundation. To let you know that I am still a practicing Christian, and I am still solidly behind the idea of separation of church and state. I don't want the government coming into my church, and I don't want the church coming into my government. And therefore, I hope you will solidly support the idea that we need to be aware of the separation of church and state. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to add on that. The church and state separation is not an anti-religious concept. It was taught by Jesus himself. Mark 12:17 says, what is Caesar's, give to Caesar. What is God, give to God. He was talking about that you should respect both the government and the religious institutions, and they are separate. And this is what was taught. So anyone who claims to be a Christian, go back and read your Bible and meditate on Jesus' own words about the separation of church and state. And the Rock Church should be ashamed of itself. Go back and read that scripture, Rock Church. You're supposed to be Christian, and you're going against what Jesus himself said. So, we need to get it straight. This is not an anti-religious concept. It is taught by the religions themselves. Who else wants to say something? David Secor, former candidate for Congress.
I'm David Secor, S-E-C-O-R. I just want to say one thing to the people that will be seeing this. You can't see that there's a real problem with this church taking over this property. That we shouldn't have a problem with a religious organization taking over this civic building. Well, I would ask the members of the Rock Church themselves, if control over the civic building by a religious group shouldn't pose any problem, what if this building were to be turned into a mosque instead of a Christian church? I can guarantee you the same people who are saying that there's no problem here would be going absolutely berserk if another religion, not theirs, was allowed to control this building. So we need to use common sense and understand this is a civic building. Rock Church has millions and millions of dollars. They don't belong here.
Thank you. There was something that you wanted to say. Make sure you speak loud. Richard Braden.
Richard Braden.
Speak in here.
My name is Richard Braden. I've lived in El Cajon over 30 years. I've seen changes in El Cajon, many of them negative. The thing is that we have people coming from San Diego that want a new chance. What chance are they going to have if you have groups like the Rock Church, which I've seen in Point Loma, take over? Your downtown area will be screwed up. People will lose jobs they have now. And is the Rock Church helping our homeless here? No, they don't do. That's not important to them. And so the thing is that for a religious group, they have not done. Plus the fact is, you go look over here, and if they block the area, how can the police come out at times when it's an emergency? And others, they will have no way. It is that crowded. And so this is ridiculous. The person, the city manager, I don't know what he has in his head. If he thinks, because it certainly will cause El Cajon a big problem financially. And that's what we don't need. We are the largest city in the county besides San Diego. 100,000 people. And what is the salary for most of the people? I'd say right now, at least a third of the people are earning below what is necessary to really live. And to make it worse, this is not something we need. Plus the fact, how many people are of the conservative Christian religion? We have people in El Cajon that are not Christians, Muslim, Jews, and others. They are not given the right. And plus the fact that when I want to go out to go to a good play or something else, can I come to El Cajon? No. North Park Theater has something that we could have here, even better. That's what we need to get people into El Cajon downtown, to make money for the city, to help the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. You know, next what they're going to do is city manager.